Oh, hey there. I didn't see you come in. I was just about to do some science, so I'm glad you joined me. My name's Mr. Kurt. I am a scientist. So we'll start from ground zero, I guess. Like the first thing with science is that we're studying perceptions, or sometimes thoughts. Sometimes we study patterns in our perceptions, like maybe you don't perceive something, but you notice a pattern in what you perceive, and then you can kind of like study that. So, but ultimately, like even if we're studying the patterns in perception, we're still studying something related to perception. So it's important to understand perception because that's what you're doing your science on, right? So in the body, you could feel so this is the electromagnetic field, and then within that field things tend to polarize, and perturbations in the field at a specific frequency range are things like light, right? So depending on how fast it vibrates, gives you different frequencies of light. And that's from the surface of the electromagnetic field vibrating. As these electromagnetic waves get larger and larger, they start to resemble what's called a gravity wave in the ocean. And when a gravity wave in the ocean goes by, it's not just a ripple, but when you measure it, all the water is spinning like a wheel, and it spins down pretty far. So as a wave goes by, it's not just this frequency here, but it's all of this churning and this rotation under the surface. And so when this churning and this rotation happens, then what was previously considered to be light and sort of like massless, right? Like there's these little itty bitty waves will roll over and get deflected and reflect off of anything, right? So I'm using a water analogy to describe something like four-dimensional space, or the space around space, which is the electromagnetic field. Like the disturbances in the electromagnetic field is what creates three-dimensional space. The same way that disturbances in water is what creates the two-dimensional space of the surface, right? So the three-dimensional volume of the water in multiple different layers of density stuck together creates a two-dimensional surface. And on that two-dimensional surface, you see how wave patterns pop up, right? And that two-dimensional surface is created by two three-dimensional spaces coming together to create a two-dimensional surface, and that's what creates the objects, or the, you can see the different, there's a wave, there's a wave, there's a wave, there's a wave. So there's two mediums that are continuous objects with no separation, no division within them. And when they come together to create waves, be they electromagnetic in the case of the electromagnetic field, or ocean waves in the case of water, you suddenly have differentiation, right? There's a wave, there's a wave, there's a wave. So you get objects, light, stuff like that. As these waves start to interact with each other, they don't just get like bigger and bigger without anything going on underneath, no patterns. Like just because there's no wave patterns down here, there's still patterns in the field. So as waves come together via resonance, they kind of eat each other, and as they eat each other, that wave energy gets put into the whole wave grows, and as the wave goes through the water, it causes the water to rotate in a double helix, right? So anytime an object moves through a medium, if this medium here goes down while this medium goes up, right, and it does this is free. This is like no movement. So that's why things like to spiral, they like to rotate, because when that happens, they maintain their inertia basically. As something goes by, you can just rotate it past, right? Like, oh, here's some energy coming, I don't want to move. Energy comes in, energy leaves. So as the wave goes through the water does this rotational thing to allow it to go by. You stick your, if you experience this rotational stuff, you experience it as force. So this is like the mass of an electron hitting you, or like the mass of an elephant hitting you. Like this is the optical pattern of the elephant. This is what you would see. And then all of this underneath here is the body, or is the mass of the elephant. So the reason that things have mass in the traditional sense of the word is because of the rotation, the existence in the electromagnetic field, which is underneath the surface layer of reality. So as as I move forward as a single mass, it's actually a type of electricity, just the way, or a type of light, right? Just like the wave on the surface of the ocean is a type of light. As those waves get bigger, like even like light is just the flittering of the surface, but it's like the tide, right? A wave that's like half the size of the planet or whatever. The tide is a giant. That's the heaviest photon, right? Like you could view the tide as a single massive particle, and then it's entangled with all of the waves. All of the waves on top of the tide are other objects like within that particle, if you wanted to break it apart. So studying water, right? You have to study how energy moves through a medium. And you can study the water, and you can see how energy moves through a three-dimensional medium that's water, and you can see how that projects onto the two-dimensional surface, where you can see the waves as oscillating. So with science, you're largely studying the electromagnetic field, which is very, very similar to water. In the same way that water contains all things on the surface, the electromagnetic field contains all things in reality, and the surface of the electromagnetic field is the phenomenon that we call light. And so the air, like air is water, and water creates the surface. For the electromagnetic field, you have consciousness, is the space into which the electromagnetic field can wave. So just like you need air and water to have ocean waves, you need consciousness and ether, or the electromagnetic field, or the quantum field, or whatever, the thing that starts vibrating that consciousness notices as moving. And so this is what we're studying in science. Is all the data that we're getting by means of light is we're looking at disturbances in the electromagnetic field. And so a lot of people say, oh, there's no such thing as the field, the light just travels through a vacuum, and like space, and like, so if time, like everyone says that gravity or space-time is capable of bending and warping light, and if it's capable of bending light, then that means it's the medium that the light is traveling through. Same way, if I started a swirl in the water and I started doing waves, as the waves went, they would get bent by the vortex or by the currents in the water, right? So like what people are calling space-time is the ether, or is the electromagnetic field, because when it's not moving, it's not anything. There's no thingness. It's only when there's a wave pattern that you have an object, and it's only when the object has this associated, this is the magnetic field, the light, the electric field. The electric field is the height of the wave, right? Because as you bring water, or you bring the electric field up out of neutral, it is attracted to anywhere lower. So that's the same thing as having an electric charge. It's the same thing as having water in a water tower. It wants to flow down. Having water in a wave, it's going to want to flow down. So there's an electric charge, and then there's an associated magnetic field rotating with a moving electric charge, right? Like if an electric charge moves, the magnetic field has to rotate. Just like if an aquatic charge, if a lump of water moves, you have to get these rotational columns of water below the wave to have it move. So that's why there's electromagnetism, because it's the height, it's the disturbance in the electromagnetic field of the ether combined with the currents, the subcurrents below the surface of the ether that give the particles, or that give the light, or that give the events, that give the phenomena mass, right? Something that's only surface phenomenon has no mass. Like if you touch it, it doesn't do anything to you. It's only once it accumulates enough energy that it gets this churning, that when you touch it, do you get this feel of something massive hitting you. It's the exact same way as you would contemplate ocean waves. It's just one-dimensional higher, right? Like water is completely analogous to the ether, except it's one-dimensional higher. But it's a perceptual phenomenon that allows you to begin to grasp ether or higher dimensional space. So the other thing in science is when you're looking at something, you want to know what you're looking at, right? So we know that we look with our eyeballs. And the eyeballs are connected to the brain. Is that a brain? So eyeballs connected to the brain. Brain's connected to the spinal cord. Spinal cord is connected to all the organs, all those sensory apparatus, right? So eyeball sees object. The eyeball has sensors that are connected to the nerves, and this changes the frequency that nerves are firing, right? Like all nerves are just constantly firing at a particular frequency. And when you see a particular color in a particular location, it changes the frequency that the nerves are firing. Just like when you talk into a microphone, it changes the frequency of the things, and then that changes the speaker output, right? So when you see an object, the light from the object changes the frequency versus light from the background. So that changes the frequency of the nerves going into the brain. That changes the frequency of the whole brain, changes the frequency of the nerves firing in the entire body, because everything's all connected. So you look at that, and then you see the objects in this frequency. So you have the primary frequency, which is reality. So that's primary reality. Then you have a transformer. The transformer's, this is like a circuit, so the transformer is connected to the primary reality, which is providing the energy, providing the information into the secondary reality, which is based off of the frequency. And it's not illusory, it's all tied together. Like it's a feedback loop. But you're looking So you want to have a correct model of where you're looking for and where these vibrations are coming from, right? So you can view it as you're in reality, like you're an event floating or existing in this sort of electromagnetic field. And you're breathing through the tube into here, and then this is, looking at objects on the surface, and that's changing the vibration of this bubble, right? Your breath or your air is creating a bubble or a pocket in the totality of reality. That's what the breathing is doing. You're breathing air down into the ether, down into the electromagnetic field that's creating or maintaining reality. And the breath is keeping it inflated. The sense organs and just the experience of being in contact with reality causes there to be this wave. And that's what you get perceptions. But you're looking at it from here. This is your awareness. This is actually your being. And then this is your awareness. So your awareness is being breathed in. And so that's why it seems like you're looking out from a body. So your awareness is inside of a body because of the breathing. But your being, your substance, your form is here in the ether. And so your being isn't seeing anything, but it's experiencing everything. So your being is feeling this, your being's feeling that, your being is feeling other people, right? Your being can feel that. Your awareness only sees this. Their awareness only sees this, but you have shared being. Everybody has shared being. So the body that you're aware of is just informational, but the being that you're aware of is real. It lacks information because it's subsurface, but it has all the currents, it has all the mass, it has all the meaning, it has all the non-holographic or illusory nature of reality. And it's not that the surface is illusory or that perceptions are illusory. It's just seen without the if seen outside of the totality of the system, this seems kind of fake because it's missing so much context. So with this, I mean, this is just the factual model that we've had, right? Like you just kind of have to understand the implications of what it means when we're looking at light, of light being this electromagnetic wave. The wave is propagating through space-time, right? So like the instant that you're thinking about space-time, you're thinking about a three-dimensional thing. So if you're thinking about it as in you're studying it, you're in four-dimensional space. And so that four-dimensional space, the surface of the four-dimensional space is three-dimensional space. Just like the two-dimensional space of the water-air layer is the surface of the three-dimensional space of water. And so once you, then you can just do normal science in terms of I'm going to study this perception, or I'm going to see how is this perception linked that perception, and everything is linked together because it shares being, and it's all in a system that has like awareness or emptiness or nothing. Heaven is meeting or contacting Earth. It's almost Earth, E-A-R-T-H, Earth, Ether, Ether, Earth, right? And then the heaven and earth are unified, or they grow into each other to create a tree, right? The breath, the lungs, the vascular system is the tree of life, where the heaven and earth kind of grow together via the breath, and then that gives rise to objects, life, space. But that's kind of like science 101, or the foundational aspects of science, because like if you don't, a lot of people just have been ignoring the question of like where the awareness is coming from, and that kind of like makes everything a little bit wonky, or like a little silly. Or where the being, like where your actual being is, like where is it that your body is, like where is it that you actually have risk of like being injured and stuff like that. And it's just you could view these as like as you breathe in, you're sucking air in, and then it comes out. Right. So you get this double torus ring, vortexy sort of thing going on, and that's the shape of all galaxies, the sun, the human energetic field, magnets. Yeah.